Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it finds you well. I'm battling a cold at the moment, but I'm still coming to you here at another Storytime Thursday. This time we'll be reading chapter 29 of my first book, The Shadow of the Past, very nearly at the end. Luckily for me, this is quite a short chapter. I don't have to do too much talking. Before we get started, it would be really awesome if you were to like, share, subscribe, tap to get notifications. That would really help me and my channel out, as well as down below you have links to my website, my socials, my books. I would really appreciate you checking any and all of those out. In particular, on my website, I have been doing daily writing exercises. Some of them shorter, some of them longer, fantasy, science fiction, some horror in there, a little bit of humor thrown in there as well. If you want a shorter sort of window into my writing style, I would recommend going to check those out. And if you like them, I would certainly ask you to check out my books. All right. So, where we are now is at the Battle of the Glistening Spire. Kyral and Val'inar battled. Where after that continued for a while, Val'inar managed to strike down Kyral, and his soul departed his body, and that's where we're at here. All right, so chapter 29, Upon a Mountaintop. The man from the dragon's tower sat on a ledge at the very peak of Terra, the tallest mountain upon Sirana. It was frigid beyond imagination, and the wind whistled and howled as it tore through the mountain peaks. None of this concerned the man in the slightest, although he was only dressed in a loose robe of deep red and was sitting in the snow. A vast battle was being fought on the plain far below him, but he paid the battle as a whole little heed. He stared at a point in the midst of the teeming masses of combatants at the foot of the glistening tower, or perhaps he was simply lost in thought. It could not be said whether even his eyes could see the duel taking place there, but he could certainly sense the power that was being unleashed. He sat and stared, utterly motionless, in the long minutes the two duelists danced about each other. He watched every blow, every cut, every thrust. Finally, he saw the final strike and the concentration of power as Kyral, who was once the greatest upon the Terra fell at last. At that moment, the man shut his eyes and seemed to concentrate. After perhaps half a minute, he opened his eyes. Sorry. After perhaps half a minute, he opened his eyes once more and gave a small smile of satisfaction. A moment later, a gust of wind from the direction of the plain arrived upon the mountain top. Although it was but a small breeze, it still managed to cut through the great rushing wind of the mountains. It carried with it the whispered final words of Kyral, which the man heard. Thank you. The man smiled at this. He showed no reaction, however, as the breeze turned into a small whirlwind atop the ledge, and after revolving for a moment took on the shape of the man Kyral once was. His shadow wore a loose tunic and trousers over which was a long robe. He was a tall man, but not unusually so, with broad shoulders. His hair hung down to his shoulders, and he had a close-cut beard. He had a high forehead with piercing gray eyes. His face was worn, not with age, but with many burdens and cares. The shade of Kyral looked around, rather perplexed for a short time before noticing the man. "What am I doing here?" he inquired. "I thought that I had finally died." The man responded kindly. "You are dead, my friend. I am merely holding your spirit here for a few minutes before it moves on." Moves on to Moves on to where? Kyral said with calm curiosity. "I don't know," came the reply. "I have no knowledge of such matters. My power extends to the very edge of life itself." "But not beyond," finished Kyral. "Yes, so you have told me many times, all those years ago. You have brought me here to punish me, then?" The man chuckled. If I had wanted to punish you, I would have come to your prison 10,000 years ago and done so. As it is, I think that imprisonment was all the punishment you deserve, and perhaps more. In truth, I was surprised that you didn't, mused Kyral. Even from my prison, I could sense a power as great as yours arrive upon Sirana. I fully expected that I would shortly be receiving a visit from you so that you could punish me for my crimes. The thought certainly crossed my mind, admitted the man. It vexed me greatly for a time, especially fearing sorry for those loyal to you that were unjustly trapped. But I could not free them without freeing you, and if you had chosen to resist me, the fight would have devastated this Terra, and Sirana had seen enough devastation. So I have spent the past 10,000 years keeping a careful eye upon this Terra, waiting for the opportune moment to see to your release, and at that juncture I would decide whether or not you needed further punishment. I was sure that when the time came that you would kill me. Really? Kyral sighed, as one making a painful admission. Yes, I have caused so much death and destruction in my despair, desire, and arrogance. The man nodded. Yes, I have killed many who have committed such crimes as you name. But for all of your crimes, your intentions were good. Kyral scoffed at this. What difference does that make? Perhaps none, replied the man. And perhaps it makes all the difference in the Terra. You learn from your mistakes after all, and you clearly realize that you went astray. If you had not, the demon that was once trapped beneath my tower would have no doubt provided the elf with some trick to getting through your defenses and killing you, and you and I would not be having this conversation. If you did not bring me here to punish me, then why am I here? The man stood up at last and turned to face Kyral. He regarded Kyral for a long moment and smiled. You were a very dear friend to me once, and more. You are my greatest pupil. Is it wrong of me that I wish to converse one last time with you before your spirit moves on? Kyral smiled. No, I suppose it is not. And it is good to see you again, my old friend. But I hope you do not hold me here too long, for I am weary and ready to move on, as I should have long ago. No, Kyral, I shall not hold you here for long. I merely wanted a chance to speak with you for a little while. I have a good idea what has happened, but I would like some things clarified. Yes, there are a few things that I am unclear on as well, nodded Kyral. The first is, why did you let the demon out of his ancient prison? Am I correct in guessing that he is now imprisoned within the pendant around the elf's neck? The man grew grim at this line of questioning. I arranged that the demon be moved from his ancient prison to one that was more mobile. I wished to keep my presence hidden, and because of that, the only being capable of providing Val'inar with the information he needed was the demon. I knew that in gratitude for being freed and allowed to experience the world, that the demon would make himself useful to Val'inar. I also knew that he would fear making your acquaintance again, giving him another incentive to help. But aren't you worried about what the demon will eventually do? Cried Kyral. That demon is vicious and frighteningly intelligent and altogether evil. My imprisonment may have shown me the error of my ways, but no imprisonment will ever teach him the same lesson. Sooner or later, he will trick this Val'inar into doing something horrible. The man nodded. We all have our demons, my friend. Val'inar simply knows what his look like. I shall keep my eye upon him. If he leaves this Terra, and I suspect he will, I shall see to it that he makes my acquaintance again. If he remains on Sirana, I shall also see that he is watched. And if the demon should be released, let us say that I have no intention on putting him in another prison. So you intend on seeking him out as an associate, mused Kyral. If that means what I think it does, then I am doubly glad that I shall shortly pass on. I have no desire to live through that again. The man smiled sadly. I do not blame you for that. I am curious myself as to what the deal you made with Isharo. Kyral chuckled. I hear by the way you said her name that she is known to you and that you are not friends. I had a feeling when I met her that she might have crossed paths with you. Some years ago, she opened a portal into my prison to communicate with me. Said she had discovered Sirana and learned its history, and represented a group that wanted to see me released in exchange for my promise of loyalty. My chief thought for thousands of years had been a way to free my followers. I did not know how she proposed to release me, but I agreed to her terms. Did you intend to honor them? Inquired the man. Kyral chuckled at this. No, I knew exactly what she intended as soon as she started to talk. She tried to charm me with high promises and clever rhetoric, but I have never been a fool. I said I would do what she wanted, but I also knew my former friends. They were bound to find someone to oppose her once they realized the danger, and that person would either defeat her, and in her defeat she would release me, or she would defeat them and eventually release me, and then I could deal with her. I knew my friends could not oppose her themselves, as even from my prison I could feel their power weaken over the long years. Did you expect that champion to be the descendant of the one who defeated you? Kyral smiled. I had a feeling that Tornar had made provision for my release. You guessed correctly on all counts, admitted the man. What of the plague of hatred? Was that Ishara's doing or yours? I am ashamed to admit that it was I, Kyral nodded. I burned and raged for a long time after that dark day all those years ago, which affected my followers in the very land with which we were trapped. Little by little, I came to realize where I had gone wrong and made it my mission to undo the wrong I had done for the sake of those loyal to me. Knowing the damage that would be caused if they were freed with all the rage and hate that I had put in them, I gathered it all into myself and had held it in check. When Ushara came to me, I fed the hate to her to use, gambling that it would gain the attention of the others, and they would be able to stop it before too much damage was done. And from what I felt, it seems my gamble was correct. But what is funny? I'm sorry, laughed the man. But you haven't changed, always going for the big gambles and playing dangerous games. Although it was not Ushara who finally opened your prison. Kyral looked for the first time quite confused. Then who did? I did, the man said simply. I persuaded the elementals to place within Val'inar, along with greater power, the key to your prison, as it were. Once he stepped foot within the circle of binding, the enchantments began to unravel. Kyral laughed. And you say that I take big risks. How could you be so sure that I was not the same evil that I was when I was imprisoned? I couldn't, admitted the man, but I knew you of old and gambled that if given time, you would see the error of your ways, and I was correct. The only other thing I'm curious about is why you put up such a good fight against Val'inar. Kyral smiled almost sheepishly before responding. Call it a last vestige of my vanity. I endeavored to live my life as a warrior, and felt it was only right that if I was to meet my end, even an end I greatly desired, that I should do so in the way that I had lived, in battle. Was it necessary to hurt him? I suppose not, but knowing that he had gained the power that I had once possessed, I felt that a lesson in humility might not be entirely unwarranted. The man smiled. Perhaps you are right. I do have high hopes for him, but that is a lesson that he needed to learn. He reminds me very much of you, in fact, skilled, eager, powerful, but idealistic, self-righteous, and quick to judge. All that he did shows that he has at least some understanding of the lessons of Sirana's past, but until now he has not had a practical lesson in the limitations of raw power. I hope he lives up to the expectations you have set for him, responded Kyral. Where will he lead this Terra now? As if on cue, there was a great rumbling, and both men sensed a great shifting in the array. The man smiled. He is leading Sirana into the future and helping them at last put the past behind them, as I hoped he would. I think it is high time I departed, said Kyral. It was good to see you one last time, my friend, but my spirit yearns for the next adventure. The man nodded. You always did like adventure, didn't you? Go well, my old friend. May your spirit find the rest that you crave. The man gave a casual wave of his hand, and as a small cloud of dust his spirit melted away into the wind. Alone upon the mountaintop once more the man smiled and turned once more to survey the scene below him. All right, that is the end of chapter 29. As I mentioned, it was a fairly short chapter. I do hope you enjoyed it. Um, Once more, it would be really fantastic if you were to like this video, leave any comments you have, any feedback for me down below, as well as check out, subscribe to my channel, check out my website, socials, everything like that, which will be both be posted below and be featured at the ends. Thank you all for listening. I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. You get a chance to do or experience something creative, and I will catch you on the next one.